Welcome to Module 2, Lesson 2. We're talking about market research, identifying the right location. Dr. Brice, how does understanding your right market determine location?
Well, we talked about the ideal patient, right? Mm-hmm. So if we know the ideal patient, we know our why. Now we have to figure out where to put that. Where does that best fit? And location can absolutely break your practice. It can make your practice as well. So we have to do the correct demographics on the front end to make sure that we're in a good spot for success.
So let's talk about analyzing demographics. How does that actually help a practice? Like knowing where people are, how does that help?
Yeah. So it's just like with anything, you need people in the vicinity to actually sell something to, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not selling stuff online, so you have to have people in proximity to you that can get to you. Really what we're thinking about in this context is if you are going to treat children, you want to probably be near at least some type of schools, right? If you want to treat adults, then you probably want to be around adults, and that's really kind of what we're getting at. It seems simple, but it has to be thought about.
And I think going one step further is, do the people in the area, can they actually afford your services,
or do they value your services?
Yeah,
right. So if I go somewhere and nobody has any teeth, they probably don't value what I do.
Yeah,
right? So it's not a good fit.
Yeah, and it's like knowing that, and you can hire somebody to do a demographic surface. Yep. You can also pull ChatGPT, and they will pull a lot of data that might be a few years old, but there's different ways to kind of pull these reports and see, man, this area is banging right now, or this is an up and coming area. You can see where there's a lot of new development as well.
Yeah, and the research will also help you decide if there's another orthodontist right down the street, right? Mm-hmm. Some areas can support that, some can't.
So let's say there is an orthodontist down the street, and you're like, man, I really think that this market could support myself as well. How would you go about that? This
is a balancing act, right? Because you really don't want to step on colleagues' toes, but at the same time, this is your dream as well, right? Mm-hmm. So what I would do is I would try to get on a different part of town, right?
Yeah.
In the same area, okay, yeah, but not necessarily right across the street.
You're not doing the CVS Walgreens kind of deal.
But that does work.
It does work.
It does work. And so the reason it works is because you cut out the location.
Yep.
The location factor doesn't matter.
Yep.
Now it's who do they like more, right? And so there is a world that you can do that. It just seems kind of cringy.
Yeah.
In theory. I've actually thought about doing it a couple of times. I haven't done it, but I understand why people do that. So I would approach it like that, and I would say, hey, other doctor, I'm not here to step on your toes. I believe in this area because of X, Y, and Z. I think we can both coexist. I do not believe in the scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go over and poach your patients. I'm not going to poach your team. None of those things. We're going to coexist, and we're both going to succeed.
Yeah, because let's say Nashville. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's more than just you, Dr. Brice, in Nashville that it's doing orthodontics.
That's right. I got a guy right down the street now. And when he first came, I was like, oh, man, there's somebody else.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, I was like, but who cares?
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be enough. I'm in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
There's enough.
There's enough. And I think that's a great mindset to go into it, because you're not afraid of, even once you become established, everybody, you're not afraid of an upstart coming in and taking everything.
That's right. And you have to go into it kind of fearless. Now, I'm not saying that if you have the king orthodontist down the street, you might not want to go and try to rock that boat, right? But the idea of not going into an area because there's someone else there, I found that to be silly because it was so self-limiting. I mean, I was going to have, if that was the case, I was going to have to be in an area that I'd never wanted to be in.
Yeah.
And there's something about owning your practice in a place that you want to own it that makes it feel right, too.
Yeah.
So I think that's, again, goes that back to personality, but for the most part, I would pick the place that you wanted to be in.
So I think another thing that we need to think about is accessibility and visibility. Is your office easy for patients to find and get to?
That is something that I did not appreciate enough. until I opened my practice, right?
Okay.
So I felt like my place is in a good spot. It's a little bit confusing to get to just by Google Maps. That makes it a little challenging. But I tell you, the bigger thing is parking. You don't think about parking. If you go and visit a practice or a potential practice at night, it's going to have all kinds of parking. There's going to be parking everywhere.
Yep.
You need to go see it in the daytime. You need to see it on the weekends. You need to see it all the time. You want to see, if you're in a multi-unit place, you want to see the parking situation at lunchtime. You want to see it at dinner time. You want to see it in the morning because they may take up all your parking, right? And I promise you that is one of the biggest deterrents that I have going to any place. If there's no parking, I don't want to go.
Yeah, and if it's super tight, like it's hard to get around the parking and all of that, like these are just things, because people are people. People are people when you really get down to it. And I think another one is, will people see your sign for your practice?
Yep. You got to think about the sign like this. It is constant marketing, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that never stops.
And you pay for it once.
You pay for it once. Exactly. It's not a billboard. Billboard you pay for every month.
Yep.
Right? But it is a billboard. It's just you pay for it once.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you're in a large city, talking about some legal and regulatory things. Like something to think about is, are you allowed to open a practice in that area?
That's right. And sometimes it's the x-ray machines, right? That are you able to take x-rays? All of those things, which sounds crazy, but there are places that you can't do it. So you have to do your due diligence before. This is where having a good broker or having someone with knowledge can really help you. And because you shouldn't necessarily have to figure all these things out. You should have someone that can figure them out for you.
Yeah, you don't want to get into a lease and then it's like, oh, you get hit with some sort of fine or something like that after you've bought all this equipment.
That's right.
And you're kind of up the creek at that point. So let's talk about, like, are there any specific permits or license? And I know this kind of depends on the area and that sort of deal, but is there anything that comes to your mind that, hey, you might want to check this?
I'll tell you, it's not about licensure or permits, but it is something that I dealt with, and I had never heard of this. So I'm in a multi-unit place. I had to do all of my construction after work hours.
Really?
Which is actually really bad for me, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why is because if somebody's working from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m., guess how much they're charging me? Double, right? And it was because they didn't want to disturb all of the other tenants, which is great. All that's fine. But I didn't know that before I signed my lease. So that was something that is very, very problematic. And something that if I would have known, I may have not picked that place, right? So it didn't have to do with permits, but it has to still do with the whole build out process.
So let's talk about some kind of future pacing potential here. Looking at the neighborhood and seeing, is it growing with new families? Like, is this an up and coming thing? How important is that?
Oh man, that's when you struck gold, right? When you can get in early, you can kind of carve out your territory, just like we were talking about with those competing orthodontists. Typically, when people look at the map, if they see an orthodontist on the street, they typically don't put an office beside you, right? They're going to try to find somewhere else. So if it's an up and coming area, you start it early enough that the patient population can support your business, but then you can also have, this is my area, and then it grows around you. Yeah. That is absolutely a gold mine. Really, I tell you, a good way to kind of figure that out is if you find a Publix. Publix didn't go into dead areas. So find a Publix, they'll help you.
I like that. That's like key. I don't know how many places have Publix, but you can look at those kind of like chains like that and see. And another thing is seeing how many people are moving in. Especially like during COVID, there are a lot of people moving like into Florida. Like Florida blew up during COVID and everything. And I know that was for its own reasons, but seeing that, and it's like, are people leaving or are people coming in? Yeah,
I think the worst thing that could happen is you go into a declining area, right? You're going into an area that people are moving out of.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way for you to grow like that. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You go in and everybody leaves. It's not going to set you up for success.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, everybody. That is this lesson. We'll check you in the next one.